Hi, welcome to Coffee with Becky. Yesterday we talked about Matthew 1, where it talks about the lineage of Jesus Christ and how he came from David because of the Davidic covenant. Today we're going to look at some of the ancestors of Jesus Christ. And it says in verse 2, Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. You know, we all know about Abraham. In fact, God was known as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and still is, especially among Jews, that he is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, Jacob was a brother. He had a twin brother, Esau, and he tricked his brother to get the birthright. And then his whole life was spent serving his father-in-law to get his two wives, Rebekah and Leah, which he was tricked to get Leah in the first place. And then Isaac had Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and one of those sons was Judah, which is named in verse 3. Or 2 and 3, Jacob begot Judah and his brothers, which there were 11 other brothers, and Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Now that's really interesting because the story of Jacob and Judah, Jacob had another son that was his favorite son named Joseph. And I know you remember the story of Joseph, how he wore the coat of many colors that his father made for him. And then how he wore the coat of many colors, but he was so favored and had dreams that God was giving him that he would lead his parents and his brothers hated him. And Judah was one of those who hated his brother Joseph, I'm sorry. And so Judah and his brothers devised a plan. They threw him in a pit. They threw Joseph in the pit. And they spilled blood on his coat. They were going to take it back to his father and tell his father that he died. And Judah's the one that came up with the plan. Let's don't kill him. Let's sell him to this caravan that's coming of Ishmaelites. We'll sell him off as a slave, and then we'll tell our father that he died. And that's what they did. And you remember later Joseph became a ruler over Egypt. And his brothers did, and his father did come and bow down before him because they needed food. Judah, later we see that Judah has sons, and in the lineage it says that Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Tamar was his daughter-in-law, and Tamar's husband had died. And it was Jewish custom that if your husband died, that a brother would marry you, and the first child that you had together would be in that brother's name, the one who had died. And Tamar kept waiting for Judah to marry her to her husband's brother, and he didn't. So Tamar tricked him. She posed as a prostitute, and Judah came by and hired her as a prostitute, left his staff and his signet ring with her. And when she became pregnant, he came ready to kill her because she had had sex outside of marriage. Little did he know that she was pregnant with his sons, Perez and Zerah. So I just think it's so interesting, and we're going to see more as we go on, the stories that are in the lineage of Jesus Christ. The stories in the lineage of Jesus Christ are full of sin. And that gives me so much hope that God can use any of our stories. I don't care how bad you've been. God has got a redemptive story He wants to tell through your life. Don't get bogged down by your sin. Repent. Turn away from that sin. Confess it as sin. Agree with God that it's sin and turn away from it. And turn to God and allow Him to bring a story of redemption, a story of hope through your life. He wants to do it, just like he did with Judah's story. You know, if I had been God telling the story, I would have used Joseph, the one who overcame, the one who stayed pure, the one who rose up as a leader. But God chose Judah for a reason. God wanted to show his redemptive plan through a sinful man. Join me tomorrow in Coffee with Becky. Thank you for coming.